What's going on, guys? Welcome to the Movement Mindset powered by Station Athletics. I'm Chris Hardenberg, and we have a special guest here today for an interview. And before I get into him, disclaimer, guys, I might not sound the best vocally. I'm totally fine, but last week I was sick, so just getting over that. So bear with maybe a little bit of a raspy voice, maybe the slight clanking of a cough drop in the mic. But who we have here today is one of my buddies, Jeff Harmon. I've known Jeff, we were talking about it off air, for almost 10 years. I met Jeff almost 10 years ago, and he kind of approached me with something really, really cool that he's doing and was like, "Hey, do you think this could resonate with your audience?" Which I was like, absolutely 100%. So wanted to have him on to talk about it. Brief background on Jeff. He's a life, and you could always correct me if I miss anything. He's a life coach. And he didn't know I was going to say this, but Jeff has played an integral role in where I'm at. So like I had a couple sessions with him years ago. He gave me some interesting challenges that helped, and we might get into it as we go, helped me get to where I'm at today professionally. And so when he talked about what he was doing with his new nonprofit, My Impossible, I thought it'd be a really cool idea to have him on. So Jeff, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Chris. I'm super excited to be here.
So I said this to him beforehand. I'm going to give him the kindergarten cop. Who's your daddy and what does he do? So who are you, Jeff? What do you do? Let's lay out the background.
So the first thing I got to say is kind of funny. My wife used to describe what I do as a life coach, and I used to bristle at that.
Okay.
Now, while there are things that I do that are life coach,
like,
I call myself a leadership and an executive coach.
So let's do that instead. Rewind, JJ, executive coach.
No, it's all good. It's all good. I laugh about it now. It used to bother me, but now
Sure.
I just laugh about it because at the end of the day, it's all life.
Yeah.
And whether you're, running a gym or you're an executive of a Fortune 100, 500 company, it's all life.
Sure.
So that's fantastic. So what do I do outside of my professional vocation? So I am the founder and CEO of a nonprofit called My Impossible.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot that goes into that story. My Impossible has existed since just about a year ago. I went through the process, and we are a 501c3 organization.
Cool.
Incorporated here in the state of New Jersey. And our mission is to inspire a world where people choose to take on the things that they thought were impossible in their life. We have a vision of a world that's fully alive. And that comes out of my story because when, as a person who lives life in a wheelchair, I realized over the last number of years that when I do hard things that feel impossible, I come alive. Like there's parts of my heart that I didn't even know existed anymore, or ever existed, to be honest. And so I want to give that gift to the world.
Yeah.
I have 2 teenage daughters. They'll grow up and work for bosses and be in relationships, have life partners, marriages. I want them to be with people and work for people and associate with people who are fully alive.
Yeah.
We have enough people who are walking zombies
in
this world where I'm done with that. And so this mission is very personal for me and my story, for my family, for my friends and community. And so where we're at with My Impossible is we are up to our first inaugural epic Impossible, which is getting me in my wheelchair up Mount Kilimanjaro, September of 2025. 30 people have committed to come around me to make that happen. So this is our inaugural mission of My Impossible. And it to be a statement. It's not a bucket list item. I've never wished or had it on some secret list to climb Kilimanjaro. As I call them, the divine breadcrumbs led me to Kilimanjaro. And so I want this to matter in the world far more than saying I did it. Because again, I'm not like hung up on Kilimanjaro.
Right.
It's not necessarily a passion of mine. It's become that because of Mind Possible.
Yeah. So I love kind of what you said, that where we need people who are alive, who are not. It's kind of what got me into fitness. Like I talked about it on a previous podcast. I was a teacher for a long time, and I remember saying to my wife, like, what started to there was a lot with it, but one of the things that started to pull me out of wanting to be a teacher was I looked at my coworkers, and it was literally that. It was like, well, this is just what you do. You wake up, you're tired, so you slug back coffee, and then you just go to your job, and then you go home, and that's it. And that's it for the rest of your life. And I was like, I don't want that. Like, I want something that I'm like fired up to do every single day. So it's cool that like it sounds like you've recognized that and put an entire nonprofit basically behind it. Um, but you mentioned the divine breadcrumbs to Mount Kilimanjaro, and we talked obviously before you came on, and I didn't realize that Mount Kilimanjaro was not like a bucket list thing. So I'm curious, so what made you to be like, that's it, circle that mountain on,
Yeah.
what were those divine breadcrumbs that brought you to that
Yeah.
point?
So I'm going to go back to our story.
Okay.
I mean, so we met at a CrossFit box in
Yep.
Parsippany, New Jersey around 2015.
Yep.
I showed up one day and I started working out at this box, and they welcomed me with open arms. So
Yeah.
the guys and gals we're talking about, and it was just like, in the CrossFit community in general is just so embracing of people at all levels. So it's really started there. I was coming off breaking a leg because of my neurological disease. So that's the reason I'm in a wheelchair. I was diagnosed with a neurological disease in 2006. Um, my walking got really labored and difficult. 2013, broke my tibia and fibula.
Oof.
That sort of fast forward things. But when I came to the box 10 years ago, I wasn't in a wheelchair yet. I was using a cane. So that opened my eyes to a world of possibility. I didn't know exactly what it meant. I just thought it was I was part of a cool community, got to work
Yeah.
out, do things that was enjoyable. So then that led me to get connected to an organization out of Pennsylvania called I Am Able,
Okay.
and a guy named Chris Kaig who
I
found
remember this. Us talking about this. Keep going.
yeah. So Chris Kaig has AMN, also the disease that I am diagnosed with. AMN is adrenomyeloneuropathy. Happy to share more about that if it's relevant. So Chris totally inspired me. So I Am Able's mission is to make physical activity and exercise accessible to everyone, no matter what their limits are. So that was another breadcrumb. I eventually participated in the triathlon that he and his organization host every year.
Okay.
I swam with a team, did the swim leg. That was 2018. So again, it's these moments that just start to unfold naturally. Again, not forcing anything.
Sure.
Honestly, that's why I call them what they are. Well, at least what I believe they are is divine breadcrumbs. And then in 2021, I started to get curious about OCRs, Spartan races.
Sure.
And I reached out to a lady who I know who is an adaptive athlete who is doing them. And she said, you should really get with a team to do that. And she pointed me to an organization out of North Carolina called More Heart Than Scars. A lot of names here. We can put all that in the show notes, I'm sure. But so I started doing OCRs. 2023, did my first one, a local one down in the Asheville area. And then I started to wonder, because in that moment of doing that OCR, I'm in my wheelchair.
Yeah.
Or a trail chair, not my day-to-day chair, a trail chair. And I'm in the thick of the woods, literally in the Asheville, North Carolina area. I'm in the woods being carried through the woods by my team. And I look around and I realize I'm doing the impossible. And then that led me to, I wonder if I could climb a mountain. Well, lo and behold, More Heart Than Scars, their lead of their racing division, Joey McGlamory, says, well, we've taken a wheelchair athlete up Kilimanjaro.
Hmm.
And I said, could I do that? And you'd have to know Joey. He is this fiery, passionate guy. And he said, absolutely.
Wow.
And it was pretty quick thereafter. We started talking. And so this is 2023. Originally, we thought, well, maybe 2024, but it just didn't work out. They already had a climb scheduled for 24. So we got in the books, and it literally on faith.
Wow.
I did it, like saying yes to doing that, and not knowing at the moment, this was summertime of 23, that I'd have a nonprofit, of what that all would mean, but just unfolded in a way. So Kilimanjaro came to me. I didn't go to Kilimanjaro.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting because it's like it's funny how you say we didn't have everything lined up. You know, we were just in a conversation and they brought up how they did something similar. And I was like, you were like, I'm in, like, let's do that. To me, how often do you hear where it's like, oh, I really want to do X, but I got to make sure I got this lined up first, or I got to make sure I do this. And it's like, maybe you don't, maybe you just jump in and maybe you figure everything else out on the way. Right. Like, I think a lot of people could learn from the idea of like, jumping into something, knowing you don't have all the information, right? And learning along the way. Because if you didn't take that, like this cool thing you're doing, it might not be happening, or B, might not be happening for years, let alone like, I think it's this year actually, right?
Yeah.
September. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's how Kilimanjaro came to be. But what I noticed in that conversation, no my impossible, right? So in my opinion, there's a difference between, okay, I just did something really wild and awesome through the woods of North Carolina. And I was talking to a guy and he was like, yeah, you could go up Mount Kilimanjaro, and you're like, I'm in. To then being like, I'm also going to start a nonprofit. Like, what brought you, when did My Impossible start, A, and then B, what made you want to start that?
Yeah. So I mentioned it a little bit before. I realized really quick that I want this to matter in the world more than just me climbing a mountain.
Yeah.
And why not one of the tallest mountains in the world?
Mhm.
The tallest freestanding mountain I think in freestanding in the world, definitely in Africa, 19,314 feet. So I just realized I want this to matter.
Yeah.
And part of my story, the breadcrumbs. So in the midst of all this, I got connected with a group called F3.
Okay.
Fitness, Fellowship, and Faith. It's an outdoor men's workout group, open to all men, peer-led, free. And this group of guys just came around me and said, let's make this matter. Because the faith element of F3 isn't necessarily a religious oriented faith. It could be, but not necessarily. It's about something bigger than you mattering.
Right.
And so I researched, well, how could I make this matter? So I looked at piggybacking on an existing nonprofit. Every step of the way, that just didn't materialize. And so I said to myself, and through conversations with mentors and friends, well, what about my own nonprofit? And that ended up being a much simpler process.
Sure. Than
I had believed. You know, sort of have this conception that starting a nonprofit is this big hairy monster. And it is, you do have to go through the steps to make sure it's legitimate. The IRS reviews it, the state of New Jersey reviews it, and we were approved. And then the question is, okay, now we exist. So what is this going to be?
Right.
And I'll credit, in many ways, ChatGPT has been a huge gift for me as somebody who's starting from scratch.
Yeah, shout out AI.
Yeah, I call it she. ChatGPT is a she for me. But to just dump my ideas about the mission and vision that I shared, and some of my ideas about what this could be, and it be a thought partner at my desk,
You're right.
which is fabulous. I mean, it's all mine. It's not generated out of the ether. It's all
Right.
mine. It just helps me. It's been helping me to think through, because sometimes doing these type of things, whether it's starting a business, starting a nonprofit, taking on a mission, feels very lonely at
Oh,
times.
yeah. Oh, yeah,
I
big
can
time.
imagine some of your gym owners that you serve in your community, they get into this and they are sitting in their office and it feels lonely.
Yes.
And so, I mean, ChatGPT is one of my partners at my desk that helps me think through things. And then I'm surrounded by people who just believe in me.
Yeah.
Chris, I cannot tell you how amazing it is to realize that you have people who believe in you so much and just do things on your behalf.
Yeah, just to see you succeed.
Yeah, because they believe in what in you and in what you're doing. It is overwhelming. And so, so now My Impossible exists. We have a board of four people, me being one of those. We have a board. We just had a board meeting last night. Um, I have a board. I have a team of 30 people who have
Wow.
all committed with their dollars to be a part of the team that is going to help me get up the mountain.
Cool.
And we're raising money. We've raised almost $70,000
Wow.
since last May.
Okay.
All this initial push for fundraising is to support the climb itself.
Yeah.
We're now adding to that because we want to tell the story of My Impossible. We want to take a professional film crew up the mountain.
Sure.
So we're now raising money to pay for that.
Yeah.
So all of this has become part of My Impossible. And one of my board members, Dan, and a good friend, he has said to me several times, Jeff, yes, the mountain is impossible for you in a wheelchair, but everything you're doing is part of your impossible.
Yeah.
Starting a nonprofit, raising over $100,000, all of it is impossible.
Yeah. I think that's so through that story, as I'm listening, Jeff, there's a couple things that stood out to me. One is so one of the reasons why Jeff and I really connected back at the gym in Parsippany, I think, was Jeff recognized that I was a Christian. I recognized Jeff was a Christian. And so life is hard. And so to be able to kind of like in a professional space talk to someone is like really super powerful. And so what's cool is you're impossible, this whole thing. I love how from the jump, it was like, not, I'm going to do this cool thing. It's, all right, I'm going to commit to doing this cool thing to help spread this message, which I think those tend to be the things that have the biggest impact is when it's not outside people being like, man, can you believe what that guy did? It's like, like the message and him committing to it has affected me because of the message they're trying to send across. The second thing I recognized, you've never struck me as someone who likes to be on the sidelines and have other people do things. And so the fact that it was like, essentially it felt like, screw this, I'm making my own nonprofit seems very Jeff, like I'm going to take the bull by the horns. Like you mentioned, like with your neuromuscular condition, you were not always in a wheelchair. Right. And that's something I do want to emphasize to people because, and maybe this is not very, not kind or very politically correct for me to say, but I'm going to try to sift through it. It is a very different experience being born and having to use a wheelchair than not having to use a wheelchair and then getting into and having to do that, I would assume. And so I would think there's a lot of people in that situation, Jeff, that could really get down and be like, could theoretically get like, why is this happening to me? And I'm sure there have been tough days and tough nights, but ever since I met you, Jeff, your entire attitude has been like, I'm going to take this head on. I'm going to take the bull by the horns. And so like, to hear you tell that story to me is like, yeah, that maps. Like that sounds right. That it's like I spent all this time looking for a nonprofit. Nope, not this one, not this one. You know, forget it. I'll make it my own, and it's going to be a message that is exactly what I want it to be. And it sounds like the message, and I'll let you kind of talk on it. The message seems like it's everyone has a thing that seems impossible to them, but you can accomplish it if you put your mind to it, put your resources to it, and have a team and a support system behind you. It's like you can make that happen.
Yeah.
Is that kind of the message you're trying to get across with that?
Yeah. Something I say when I talk to groups is limits are only limits if you decide that they are.
Hmm.
I'll say that again. Limits are only limits if you decide that they are.
Hmm.
So this whole game is a mindset game.
Yeah.
This whole game. And of course, I have moments. But I guess, when I was diagnosed in '06 and life started to slow down mobility wise, not in reality,
No.
because, diagnosed in '06, my older daughter was born in '07. I started my business around that time, went into it full time in 2012. My younger daughter was born in 2012. Um, like life moves, as Ferris Bueller says, life moves pretty fast.
Yeah, yeah.
And so, but at the same time, like things changed. And mobility wise, I was just slowing down
Yeah.
because I couldn't move until I got the wheelchair in 2017. And that really, I mean, that changed things
Yeah.
because yes, I'm still limited because I'm seated and whatnot in a wheelchair, but I can move pretty dang fast in that
Sure.
wheelchair. And so yeah, there are absolutely moments of frustration and disappointment and what ifs, but never a why. Never a why
Hmm.
me. And I've always seen my place. This is outside of my impossible. Um, I've always seen my literal seat in the wheelchair as stewardship.
Okay.
Like I'm responsible to be a steward of where I am as a person who is disabled.
Yeah.
Um, and I want to destigmatize disability. I want my daughters to see it as normal.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, we wish it wasn't so, but that it is what it is. So it's normal.
Yeah.
It's normal. One of the greatest comments. So I turned 50 in 2024,
Okay.
and at F3, I led the workout
That's cool.
for my birthday, and we were just standing around having coffee that after the workout, and I was so blessed that these men were acknowledging me. And one of the guys, my good friend Alex Jelly, he says to me, "There's times, Jeff, where I forget you're in a wheelchair.
Heck yeah. That's cool.
There are times when I forget you're in a wheelchair because when I go to F3, one of the mottos, I guess you could say, of F3 is it's you versus you.
Yeah.
You adapt. It's open to all men, all fitness levels, all situations. So I just adapt. Whatever the workout is, I mean, we are lifting our weights at the workouts, our cinder blocks. We call them
Okay.
coupons. We have silly names for everything at F3. And so that's like mission accomplished. When
Yeah.
Alex said that, it's mission accomplished. And it's so funny too. Forgive the riff, but
No,
it
keep
just makes
going.
me think about it. So on my wheelchair, I can add push handles to the back.
Okay.
And I was in a situation on grass where I put them on.
Yeah.
They were there, and my daughter said to me, "Dad, take those off." I'm like, "Why?" He goes, I don't remember exactly what they said, but something to the effect of, "It makes you seem disabled.
Wow.
Like you need help
Yeah,
in the
yeah, yeah, yeah.
wheelchair." And so we took them off because on a day-to-day basis, I don't need them because I'm able to navigate most situations. But again, it's my responsibility. I see it as stewardship
Yeah.
to live a life in a way that people don't see the disability, they see the person.
And that's cool. Like your daughters definitely have that because to hear them say, Dad, take the push handles off. It's like, it was probably almost like cognitive dissonance for them where it's like, push handles. Dad doesn't need help. Just because dad's in a wheelchair, he doesn't need help. Dad does, he does this, he does this. And it's the things with our kids, like none of that's spoken. It's just like they just observe the world. They observe you. It's like when I talk to members at our gym, right? And it's like the conversation of like you're setting the example for your kids. And the idea that like they're working out and their kids are just whether it's in the corner on an iPad or they just know mommy or daddy's going to the gym. It's like that's normal for them now. And so when those kids get old, I mean, JJ's one of those kids actually. His mom goes to the gym down the road. I mean, she's been a member there for 10 years. And so like he doesn't know any different than like, well, yeah, you're physically fit, you're physically active and you go to the gym. It's not like a thing. And it's like, sounds like for your girls, it's like, well, dad's in a wheelchair, but that doesn't mean anything because dad does all this stuff that everyone else does. And actually he does stuff most people not in a wheelchair can't or won't do. Right. So I think that's really cool. One of the things, and as you were talking, right, and I'm thinking about your nonprofit, and I mean this in the nicest way possible. There's a lot of nonprofits out there, right? And so one of the things I'm curious is like, especially being the founder, because I always like to hear founders talk about whether it's their business or whatever. What makes you unique? Like, what makes your nonprofit like unique? Your baby? Like, what is different about it?
Well, right now it's me.
And
So
you're different.
So I'll just juxtapose. So I was at this fundraising event last Saturday for I Am Able, this organization that was founded by a guy, Chris Kaig. And it was for many years, definitely at the beginning, it was all about Chris.
Right.
You know, he ran a gym basically out of his truck. He ran like boot camp workouts at the back of his truck and then a trailer. And then he eventually had a CrossFit box.
Okay.
So it was all about, and it still is all about Chris.
Sure.
You know, but the organization now is 15 years old, 17 years old. I don't remember exactly when it was founded, but yes, Chris is chief motivation officer, but there's a staff and they're raising hundreds of thousands of dollars. So I just juxtapose where they are at today to where we are at, and to answer your question. So today, why we're different is my story.
Sure.
It's my story. It's what we're doing. It's not about me, but it's kind of this weird place of it's not about me, but yes, it is about my story and my unique perspectives.
Because your story is what's going to draw people in to learn more about the nonprofit. And so even though it's like, listen, it's not about me, it's about what the message means for you.
Yes.
But the basis at ground zero message is my message, is my story. Yeah. So that makes sense.
Yeah. So, you know, why people donate is they're inspired by me and by my team. So I have 30 people who have committed with their dollars to go up Kilimanjaro, and their hearts and their effort and the training is absolutely crazy what my team is doing. I mean, I have a team member out of Austin who does ultra marathons.
Okay.
And runs marathons with a 30-pound rucksack.
Huh.
And all because he's crazy, but two, he's training for Kilimanjaro.
Yeah.
So people are, my friend Luke, who's a friend, dear friend, and in many ways a mentor, coach, he's on the team. He says often, people see what we're doing, Jeff, they see what you're doing, and they start to ask themselves, what could I do?
Yeah.
So why are we different? Because I'm one of a kind.
You are.
And the situation is one of a kind.
Yeah.
There aren't many situations like this in the world.
Yeah.
And it's not saying I'm not patting myself on the back saying I'm special, but it is just the reality. There is only one Jeff Harmon.
Yeah.
There's only one story of me going up Kilimanjaro.
Sure.
There's only one blah, 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 all of it.
Yeah.
So that's what makes my possible unique. Now, just like I am able, 17 years, 18 years later, it's about so much more than Chris Cagg.
Mm-hmm.
If we exist in 10 years, 15 years, and the vision that's starting to form of what will take shape,
Mm-hmm.
it's going to be way more than it's going to be about the lives that we affect.
Yeah.
Because Saturday at that benefit, story after story after story of the lives that were impacted by Chris and by the organization.
That's cool.
So if we exist and the vision and mission unfolds, that it's going to be about the lives that we touched. And it already is starting to be about some of the lives. It's just not as clear, and there aren't testimonials on video or on paper. But does that answer the question?
No, I think that does. And that's what I wanted you to speak on that a little bit, is just because, again, I wanted to really frame and paint the picture for people of you, what you're doing, and your nonprofit. And eventually, guys, obviously you come to this podcast because you're either a gym owner or gym goer. And so I'm going to circle back to that. So don't leave us yet. But I did want to get that full picture, because I do think it's important to recognize that, like, great example, right? I work for a company and we're in fitness. There's a lot of options out there. And so, one of the things I try to drill into our staff's head is like, what makes us different? Because at the drop of a hat, you got to be able to tell someone why you're different so that they sign up and give you their dollars and trust you with their body, right? I'm going to trust you to help me change my body. That's a big commitment for you and our audience. Like, they probably don't know you. They're getting introduced to you to the first time. And like, I personally want them to resonate with your nonprofit's message. And whether that means I resonate and I'm going to follow Jeff, or I resonate and I'm going to donate to the nonprofit and the Kilimanjaro climb, or I resonate and Jeff doesn't know this, but now I'm going to now do the thing that scared me for years. Right. And I think part of that process is shaping, okay, why even listen to what this guy has to say? And in that same vein, one of the things you mentioned was like, all right, if we're here 10, 15, 17, 20 years, I'm curious, and you might not have, based on how it even materialized in the first place. Have you put any thought into like, where's this going to go? Man, like obviously you have an idea of what your mission is, but like, where do you see this going? And, I'm sure the plan is to exist past the Kilimanjaro climb. So what's the long-term thought process there?
So what I'm about to say, I'll say that I hold this very loosely.
Sure.
And I know no one's going to hold me to this. I might hear this.
Maybe your wife.
But number one is support people to take on their impossible.
Okay.
And how we see that happening is coming alongside people with resources, money, equipment, logistics, including travel, to help them do their impossible. I see in some ways us being like a Make-A-Wish Foundation, but in the realm of helping people, not just sending them to Disneyland or to an exotic vacation or to meet their favorite NFL quarterback, but to help people take on their impossible. Being disabled and doing active things is very expensive.
I couldn't even imagine.
It's very expensive. Equipment is very expensive. I heard someone say, when you want to play basketball, how much does a pair of shoes cost? 100 bucks, 150 bucks. Do you know if somebody in a wheelchair wants to play like competitive basketball, that pair of shoes is $5,000 to $7,000 or more
Right.
for a wheelchair that is set up for wheelchair basketball.
Wow.
Just think about that. For you or the person who wants to play basketball on the weekends or in a pickup league, 150 bucks or less. You get to
Yeah.
play in running shoes.
Right.
Um, but to play competitive basketball for an adaptive athlete, it's over $5,000, $7,000, $10,000. So it's very expensive. And then as we talked before, a lot of it is mindset.
Yeah.
So the resources is coaching, community. So again, how it's all going to work and what it's going to look like, I'm not sure, but that's the vision of the moment that's starting to percolate as, somebody gets nominated or comes to us with a brother or a cousin or a daughter or son, or somebody wants to take on their impossible and they don't see a way for that to happen.
Mm.
We want to come alongside you and help you to do that with dollars, equipment, coaching, and other supportive resources.
That's cool. So in that same vein, we got two mics, so I'm gonna let you kind of like spit that mission in a little bit. Is for the people we see every single day in the gym, right? Most of them have some sort of goal, right? Now we serve a very wide population, whether it be someone who wants to lose weight, someone who, maybe they have physical issues and can't play with their kids like they want to and need to build strength, or they have this goal of running the local 5K with their grandmother or whatever, right? Like everyone's got some sort of goal. And I try to impress upon our staff that like we're gym people, right? Going into the gym and doing things physical is not hard for us. But for some people coming into our gym, the fact that they even stepped foot into our gym was like a monumental, like heaven and earth moving situation, right? So I guess my question to you is like, what would be your message to someone in our gym who is facing something that feels impossible or very difficult at the minimum, regarding their fitness journey and the fitness results they're looking to get?
Yeah. So our tagline at My Impossible is, my impossible is our possible.
Okay.
And so the our is all about community.
I love that.
It's all about community. And so to put, whether it be one of your staff or a family member or a friend, as I said, F3 became my community. I mean, as a guy at the time in his late 40s, my world, friendship wise, had gotten really small.
Sure.
It's a story of a lot of men
Sure.
my age. And F3 just totally shook that world. So I immediately had a community now of guys that I worked out with at 5:30 on Tuesdays and Thursday mornings and 7 a.m. on Saturdays that said, we got your back.
Hmm.
We're here for you and with you. Even the guys who are not on the Kilimanjaro team, they're there. They support me every time. So back to your question is, get community around you. It doesn't have to be gobs and gobs of people, but a few key people who can just stand with you. I just finished a round of 75 hard. Started on January 1st, just ended 2 days ago.
Okay.
And it's a group of F3 guys who do it together. And just so if there's any 75 hard, like stalwarts out there, it's not actually like to the letter of 75 hard in the world. We call it 75 committed. So we commit to the 5 areas that are part of 75 hard. But just to say, this group of guys that did this together, I would not have had the discipline or the stick-to-itiveness to get through those 75 days without that group. So find a community, your trainer at Station Athletics, uh, a buddy or a friend, somebody that can walk with you through this journey, whatever it is, the 5K,
Yeah.
the 30 pounds, the lifting goal, whatever it is, get community around you as priority one.
That's yeah, that I love that messaging, and it's something, obviously, as I'm sure we speak on a lot at the gyms. And the other group we kind of serve or listens to this podcast is gym owners as we talk, the business side of fitness as well on these microphones. And I, when you kind of said like, oh, when you're doing X, Y, or Z, you're starting your own business, it can be lonely. That was something I was like, ooh, I resonate with that for sure. I'm sure you've experienced that tremendously running your own business, right? Because I tell people at the end of the day, the buck stops with you. And so it's like you can get really hard and tough to be dealing with business problems and trying to grow and you're stuck being like, is everyone else dealing with this? Am I the only one who can't figure this out? Would your messaging for those folks be the same? Would it be to find a community or do you have something in addition to that?
Hmm. Well, definitely community, because running a business is an impossible
Right.
in its own way. So definitely community. What I would also say is, what are you not doing that you know you need to do?
Okay.
What are you not doing for whatever reason? My experience for me and my story is fear held me back in so many ways in my life, of feeling stuck, of not doing the things that I knew I needed to do.
Yeah.
Um, and and so the message to those that have taken that courageous step to open their own gym, to start their own business, is to really challenge yourself to do the things that you're stuck in, that you're not, that you know you need to do. There's tons of great advice on business ownership, I'm sure, specifically in gym ownership, podcasts, yours,
Right.
books, etc. My experience coaching leaders is that in most cases, when someone comes to me and says that they're stuck, they know exactly. It's not because they don't know what to do.
Right.
They know what to do. They're just not doing it.
Yeah.
Um, and so really challenge yourself. And it could be working with a coach like me or somebody in your universe, Chris, that supports gym owners as a coach or advisor. I would say also a board. My wife was asking me the other day, she says, what does the board of My Possible do? And it just goes, these are not like massively expert people in the nonprofit world. These are people who believe in what we're doing, who have unique perspectives, bring their best ideas, and I meet with them once a month.
Hmm.
Now I have to have a board
Right.
because the state of New Jersey says I have to have a board and
Sure.
I have to
Yeah.
meet with them at least once a year.
Okay.
We meet every month, but just to show up on the second or third Monday of every month on Zoom at 8 o'clock and spend an hour just going through things
Hmm.
and then sharing their perspectives. So maybe it's creating your own board, unofficially, because no one's telling you you have to do that. You're not, most of your gym owners are not public companies.
Exactly. Yes.
But create a board of 3, 4, 5 people who get together and you share your problems with the business or ideas. For me, and as I said to my wife the other night, I just don't feel alone.
Yeah.
It comes back to what you were reflecting, what I said earlier. Just to have these 3 other people who believe in me, who believe in my impossible, and can share the load.
Yeah. And I want to encourage the listeners, guys, whether you're a gym owner or gym goer, take everything Jeff is saying very, very seriously. He's obviously, we talked about it at the beginning, he's an executive coach, so he's used to working with people who are running companies, right? He's someone who's doing crazy things, right? And so he is in a unique situation to provide some of that guidance. So I want to encourage you guys to take that guidance very, very seriously. Um, Jeff, what how can we support you in this
Mm.
process?
Well, what I would say is, yes, we would love your donations, because we have a lot still left to do to get to the top of the mountain. So, every dollar helps.
Sure.
So donations are great. Myimpossible.org is our website. Um, and I'm gonna say but. So, yes, donations, but the how you can support me and us is by choosing to take on your impossible, of internalizing this message and making a change in your life. That's how you can support this message. You may never say the words my impossible or refer to me or this organization ever again, and that's totally fine.
Sure.
But if you choose to take on the hard thing in your life and commit to it and have a level of discipline to stick to it, even if you fail, even if you don't do the 5K or you lose 15 pounds instead of 30 or whatever quote unquote failure might
Sure.
be, the fact that you did that, I think you're going to experience a level of aliveness in just taking it on that is going to be transformative. Because if you own a gym, my daughters might show up to your gym one day and work out there or work out next to you, and I want them to see you.
Yeah.
Um, so that's the way you can support My Impossible, is just to live this message that we've been talking about for the last, 30, 40, 45 minutes.
Yeah. And this is exactly again why I wanted Jeff on the podcast. I mean, obviously, guys, Jeff is a friend, right? I'm not going to hide that. And I love the message that he's trying to do and the mission he's trying to do. And so I wanted to get that out there. But more so than that, for our audience, it's like that's why I wanted Jeff on, is because I knew in our conversations his message would resonate with folks. And if it took, man, if I had Jeff on, from my side of things, Jeff, if I had you on and having you on the podcast got one person to act on something that they were putting off and maybe nervous about doing, then I was like, having Jeff on is totally worth it. Outside of the fact that I get to see a friend that I haven't seen in a long time, right? Like that makes the whole process worth it. Is that cool? I had Jeff on and one person was like, screw it, I'm going to do that thing. Um, so we're almost at the end of our time here, but I do in interviews in the past, I'm sure, especially with someone like you who has a lot you're trying to accomplish, sometimes the mics turn off and it's like, dang it, I wish I had a chance to say this. And so I want to give you the floor one more time. So is there anything we haven't covered or I haven't asked you that you're like, you know what, I really wanted to get this in before we left?
No, this has been such a comprehensive conversation. Really, no. Just follow us on social media. We try to do the best we can on those platforms, on Instagram, on Facebook, on LinkedIn. We have a podcast called the My Impossible Podcast,
Okay.
and we are on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube.
Okay.
And very simply, I'm the host, and we invite ordinary people who have chosen in their life to take on the impossible,
Cool.
whatever it is, weight loss. Um, we have an amazing story of a woman who has a specially needs son, and her story, that's her impossible. We have the story of forgiveness that felt impossible for this one guest. So they're just ordinary stories No fa well, we had one semi-famous guy, Kyle Maynard, who, has congenital amputation of his arms and legs. Famous guy, former gym owner,
Okay.
CrossFit box owner, and climbed bear crawled Kilimanjaro.
Wow.
So he's our most famous guest
That is wild.
so far. But, uh, subscribe to the show, and we do a new episode every other week, and we just share the good news of Mind Possible and hopefully inspire people. So if you need that dose, tune in. We have about 10 episodes in the can. They're out there. Make your way through those and just be inspired.
Cool. I love that. So thanks guys. Thanks for listening. Jeff, thanks for coming on. It was really awesome talking to you. As always, guys, please like and subscribe to us on YouTube and Instagram. Give us a 5-star rating on the podcast platform you listen on, and we'll see you at the gym. Peace.